It's the Wednesday Wisdom Show, and I'm going to answer your questions about last week's show. Last week, I did a show about the emerging destiny of media. It was about the internet and laws of nature that are become evident to us in the problems that we encounter in the internet. It's a kind of a model that allows us to see things that we normally wouldn't see, all compacted down into a place where cause and effect and response function so quickly that we can begin to see underlying principles in nature. It's a very special gift that nature has given us in order to train us, to condition us for living on a much higher level. And this higher level we generally think of as being something, well, spiritual for sure, beyond the sort of animal level of human existence, and we think of it as a kind of like a fulfillment, societies that work, health, well-being, all of these things that we always dream about and we feel a lack of. The model that we're getting from the internet and the problems that we have in dealing with it in a practical and positive way, it's there to let us achieve this. Now, what I talked about, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail at all because you can check back, just go back one episode, is a manifesto that was created by some media creators when looking at this particular power that's evident in the internet and how it can be used correctly in order to learn from it and in order to help us achieve that next state that we need to. So there were a lot of questions about it, and I suggest you go back and take a look at that. Questions came up for people, and I want to answer some of them here because it's important to clarify these things. So first I'd like to look at a question from Benjamin Patricon, and he said, I personally see the internet as a reflection of the human condition in both its positive and negative realities. It's a tool no different than any other, that if used properly can be instrumental in advancing mankind, or if used for selfish purposes has an equally negative outcome. Social media will either bring us all together or pull us apart, all apart. It's really up to each and every one of us to be responsible with it. Now, hi Benjamin, you say that it's a tool no different than any other. I would say that it is quite different than any other because it's a reduction of a law of nature placed inside of the human experience and human awareness. What I mean by that is that we never had this opportunity before. We were never able to see cause and effect happening instantaneously over an entire system. What's usually hidden from us about nature is that when we take a certain action, even though it does influence absolutely everything everywhere in a kind of a ripple effect, we can't trace the cause and the consequence directly. It shows up in different places and it comes back in a very delayed way, and it seems to cause a response not apparently directly related to what we did. But that's because of the buffer involved. That's because we have no grasp of all of the connections occurring. We're not getting the feedback. It's happening in another place in the world, or it's happening at a later time in our own lives. The feedback is indirect. It's hidden by all of the complexity of processes in nature. And here with the internet and the way that the media, what we put into it, the attitudes that we put into it, we can see immediately say, take trolling, for example. You see immediately what the response is, whether the thing that you've put in is acting for good or for bad. And even if it is acting for bad, then therefore, maybe you put in something that you think is positive, but the question is more, we don't really know what's positive and what's negative. The point about what's different about the internet as a tool is that there's only one quality that is either positive or negative, and that's the quality of connection. Was the action that was taken intended to be one of criticism, right and wrong, or is it intended to bridge over apparent diversity and differences? Because even if we make a statement or an action that appears to be for good because we are talking about the truth, which of course we have no handle on, because truth is only connection, then we're going to get a negative response. We're going to get an equal and opposite response from people, because this is not a place for right and wrong. It's a place for building bridges of intention. So that's its uniqueness as a tool. It's really unlike any other tool. Everything else that I agree completely with everything else that you said. It either pulls us together or it pulls us apart. And together and apart are really the only issue, because that is the principal law of nature. Angela Morrow, hi Angela, commented, "I don't believe that a natural connection can be achieved through an unnatural medium. The internet's a bad copy of something that exists in nature. We should connect the natural way, as Jesus said, this is not the way." Yeah, this is not the way to connect, but it's not about the medium itself. The only medium that exists is natural. I am the way, says nature. There's nothing but the law of nature. It is invincible. It is what is, and we are parts of that law. And either we align ourselves with that law and we agree and we take on its essential, let's call it intention, or we don't. Everything that appears in our life is natural, but our responses to it are either, unlike nature, unnatural, or natural because they sync with that underlying principle. So there is a single way, and that is love your friend as yourself. There is nothing mystical, there is nothing special, there is nothing that belongs only to one group and not to another. The whole point is that we are a single group, we are actually a single creature. And the internet itself is an expression, a representation of the fact that there exists only the law of nature, or the creator, which is above that, but is the creator of this law, which is the quality of the creator, and the creature which responds to it. And the necessity here, it's like, connect or perish, basically, is that we have to respond through the laws of nature. There is only one way. And no matter what's presented to us, and we're not in control of what's presented to us, our response has to be natural. Because we could make the internet work perfectly, and it's a good, what would you call it, a simulator. It's a good simulator of humanity's next stage, because we can see, as I said, immediately whether or not we are using nature's imperative or not. The way is love, but our understanding of love is really messed up with personal interests. Love is the connective factor. It is the intention behind the law of nature. So in my opinion, you are both right in what it is that you want to achieve, and the principle of saying this is not it, the separation of it, and not using this tool is to lose a great opportunity And I don't know when we're going to get another one that is so clearly encapsulating everything that we need. The other thing that is so important about it is that it clearly involves everybody. And the fact that it touches everything around the world is actually the most natural thing for us to reach and be related to. We need to be looking outside of ourselves and understand the totality of what nature is requesting from us, and how totally good everything will be for us when we have that container, the container being the will, the desire to open ourselves up to that degree of connection, even to just want to. I mean, obviously, we're not there yet, but if we simply want that, if we want to work with what nature is presenting to us, we're already moving along that path. It's already a dose of healing for us. We've gone for thousands of years thinking that all of this stuff was beyond the ken of human perception. And here we have a beautiful distillation of it as a gift from above. Let's use it. From Joel Gonzalez, all the Eastern practices and religions explain that we're all connected. We're all one. From everyone in the occult, mystics, magicians, all explain this same fact. Even Taoists say we're all connected in a collective stream of consciousness. What makes this type of Kabbalah different in its explanation of the same? Well, there's a difference between saying that something is so and enabling people, the general population, people who are not abstracted from society, like mystics and occultists and people who do special practices, of being able to show people, to open a door and an understanding as to how everybody can do it exactly where they are and experience this not as something otherworldly, but as something that we have access to. So what Kabbalah is it is a methodology that's for everybody. It's a very human methodology. It builds civilization. It simplifies the laws of the human system of relationships, and it enables anybody to use it for good. It's a method. The method of how we can actually come to consider others before ourselves and respond as citizens of that unity, of that human unity. It tells us all of these other practices and religions and so on. They talk about this as an ultimate fact. But how do you do it? It always remains for us to say, well, yeah, I can't actually do that. I mean, that's true and it's beautiful and that's ultimately what's so, but what can I do? The point is that a person has to learn this method. It's a relatively simple method. And the benefit is that our reality becomes illuminated. It's all the same stuff. It's all everything that we do already. It doesn't require us to become monks or to separate ourselves in any way. It's actually telling us to use everything in the system that we have, including our own egoism and everything, in the right way with the right perspective and attitude. And that changes the nature of the reality of what we see. In our heart, we see a different world, and we are motivated by something else, and things that normally would reject us or that we would want nothing to do with. In that act of giving, that is, in the act of connection, it becomes pleasure to us. Everything becomes illuminated with the pleasure of receiving correctly, only in order to be able to help others. It's just following the essential law of nature. So if you want to learn how to do it, there are links here. Take some free courses. Take a free course. Expose yourself to it. See for yourself whether or not just tasting this thing begins to change the way that you perceive what's going on and why it's going on. And from Nevig Eman, how do I stop resisting the state of the world? It weakens me when I think about it. It feels terrible and scary at times, plus anger and resentment. It overtakes me. Is it all really under the Creator's control? Sometimes I feel it completely, and other times I feel only ugliness. It's difficult and debilitating. I need a place to rest, and it eludes me. Please help. The process that you're going through of sometimes feeling the illumination of the world with the Creator's goodness, and then not feeling it, that is a purposeful, necessary process. The problem that we have in being unable to hold on to it is that we look at it as an either-or proposition. The point is that those negative things are there in order to deepen our ability to go into it more fully. But it's not by going back and forth between the two. It's by learning this process that I was alluding to, the simple process of nature itself, and how human nature can rise to the level of the intention of nature. What that does is it allows us to be in a place both in the positive and the negative, and another place that observes all of that and uses it. The negative is very important for us. It's not put there just to screw us over. It's there as a stepping stone when we understand what to do with it. It's actually the transformative force once we understand the process, once we learn the method. So my words in themselves are not going to help you at all, Nevig. You need to take a step to learn how do we bridge these things and have this third quality that allows us to use the left and the right, say, leg correctly to begin walking spiritually. That is, to walk in a permanent connection with that everything is guided by the Creator. Again, nature is the only law. It is the only way. And it is controlling everything, and it's controlling it for good. It's directing it. It's always doing that. We just either align with it or don't. That's why it's important to learn its methodology, its intention, and then to copy it. And that's what Kabbalah teaches. So I'll give you the same advice that I gave another. Check out the beginning of the course. It's a self-study thing. There's no obligation. Start looking at it. Start seeing whether or not this desire to know this doesn't start changing the way that you perceive and give you a greater ability to balance both legs of nature for the good. This Sunday at 2 in the afternoon Eastern Time, I'm going to do a live question and answer event, and you can join us on YouTube. You'll be receiving a notice about it, so it'll tell you where and when and all that. You just have to click through, and I'd be very happy to have all of my friends from YouTube join us there. You're free to ask questions and watch students who are studying Kabbalah ask certain things about their courses. All questions are open, and it would be great to hear from you, especially the names that I already am aware of, because I always look at the comments. I try to feel what's going on with people and how they're responding. So I hope to see you this Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and watch for the notice.